Before we continue and finish this review, I wanted to point out something that I thought would be kind of fun. And I really only noticed this as I was looking back on part 1. When Kenneth Branagh, who plays Lockhart, says, "Fame is a fickle friend," Dan can be seen wanting to laugh, but holds it in.
Fame is a fickle friend, Harry.
Just thought that'd be a bit of a fun blooper to show off, but yep, that's it. Let's roll.
We're gonna have fun with this thing.
Remember what Aragog said about that girl 50 years ago? She died in a bathroom. What if she never left? Holy Myrtle.
After finding out that a basilisk has been slithering about, McGonagall announces on an intercom that is never used again for the rest of the series to have all the staff meet in one location. She informs everyone that Ginny has been taken by the basilisk and brought to the chamber itself. Lockhart shows up a little delayed, and we start noticing a tonal shift with him, especially when they start putting him on the spot.
Weren't you saying just last night that you've known all along where the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is?
Almost as if his egotistical nature and upscale talk is beginning to backfire.
I'll just be in my office getting ready.
He looks even more suspicious when Harry and Ron go to his office.
Professor, we have some information for you. Are you going somewhere?
I'm going to Escalator Land!
What about my sister?
Well, as to that most unfortunate, no one regrets more than I.
You're the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. You can't go now.
Okay, now I kind of want to use that line when a friend is about to leave Discord. Alrighty guys, I'm about to go to bed. But you're the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher! You can't leave now! He's revealed to be a fraud, and now my double meaning pun for part 1 should make sense.
My books wouldn't have sold half as well if people didn't think I'd done all those things. I'm rather gifted with memory charms. Otherwise, you see all those...
Gilderoy Lockhart is a real charmer for the ladies.
Oh, who's that?
They bring him to the girl's bathroom to confront Moaning Myrtle about how she died. She was in a stall, cracked the door open to tell what sounded like a guy to go away, and immediately died. But to what exactly?
A pair of great big yellow eyes over there by that sink.
This is it.
I gotta say, dude, I don't know if you count this as the biggest coincidence or a really awesome plot twist, but I'm gonna go with plot twist. It's just so cool how they were right at the entrance to the chamber for quite a while and they didn't even notice. Harry activates the secret entrance to the chamber by using Parcel Tongue, and Ron activates Trap Hole on Lockhart.
Sure you don't want to test it first? No!
Let's go.
They locate the shedded skin of a snake as Lockhart decides to faint. But it was just a prank, bro, as he snatches Ron's wand in an attempt to wipe their memories so he can retell this story in his own words to soak up all of the glory. But, as established by multiple characters in a scene where it's shown to backfire, they were foreshadowing this moment where his memory charm backfires, which sends him flying against a wall, which causes a rock-a-lanche, splitting Harry from the other two. So, once again, we got the main character going to face off against the main threat solo.
You wait here and try and shift some of this rock so we can get back through. I'll go on and find Ginny.
Okay. Drake. What? Where's the door hole?
Goes right there, see it?
Drew it with a magic marker. You were supposed to cut it out with the power saw.
Dude, I'm gonna.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So go get the power saw.
Okay, I will.
I see the problem. Oh, do ya?
Harry manages to find the door hole as he finally enters the awesomely looking Chamber of Secrets. Uncle Monty would be proud, except for the fact that there's no giant snake anywhere. Instead, we get a passed out Ginny. But trying to wake her up to no avail, out of the shadows comes Tom Riddle.
Are you a ghost?
A memory, preserved in a diary for 50 years.
Oh, and I'm calling continuity error on him being able to pick up Harry's wand. I don't know, it's just weird to me that a memory is able to physically pick something up in the present. Which, speaking of, he's not going to give it back to Harry. Instead, he's going to fill us in on all the remaining mystery answers. Pretty much all narrowing down to, Ginny did it! Opening the chamber in the first place, leaving those messages, the basilisk attacks, all done by her because Tom from in the diary told her to. So, does that mean Ginny can speak Parseltongue now? Because how else do you open both doors to the chamber and tell the basilisk to attack the targets? Guess we'll never find out, because she never does it again. And with what the movie wants to be the biggest twist, turns out Tom's name is a bit of a riddle itself.
You're the heir of Slytherin.
This conversation's about to get intense. But I want to comment on something I really enjoy. It's one of my favorite ways of acting. Notice how when Tom first shows up here, he's calm, soft-spoken, not really that threatening.
A memory, preserved in a diary for 50 years.
But the more he talks, the more angry and intense he gets.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Harry. You see, as poor Ginny grows weaker, I grow stronger. It was Ginny Weasley who opened the Chamber of Secrets. Who should find it but you? The very person I was most anxious to meet. So I decided to show you my capture of that brainless oaf Hagrid. I would be able to lead another to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work. How did you escape with nothing but a scar while Lord Voldemort's powers were destroyed? Surely you didn't think I was going to keep my filthy Muggle father's name. Dumbledore's been driven out of this castle by the mere memory of me.
Kinda reminds me of Scream 3, which I'm about to spoil the ending to, so if you haven't seen it or don't want to be spoiled, here's a timestamp so you can skip it. It's the weakest in the series for sure, but one of the few things I like in it is when Roman reveals himself to be the killer and explains his backstory. Starts off calm, sadistic but calm.
Once I supplied the motivation, all the kid needed was a few pointers. Have a partner to sell out in case you get caught, find someone to frame. It was like he was making a movie and direct.
But as he continues talking, gets flirkin' crazy.
I mean, introducing Sydney the victim, Sydney the survivor, Sydney the star. No, Sid, that would be you. You did it all. You did it. You killed them all, even your closest friends.
Oh, and while looking this scene up, I noticed at the corner here, this film is labeled with a PG rating and 2010 release date. In case you somehow didn't know, Scream 3 is rated R and was released in 2000. And you can't even really make the excuse that you got confused with Scream 4's release date because that came out in 2011. Way to go, whoever let that pass. Fox shows up in a very convenient bird entrance to drop off an item for Harry, the sorting hat. And yes, there is a double meaning in what I just said. Created my own little pun there. Anyway, I think he's gonna need a bit more than that, because Tom releases the most awesome creature in this entire freaking franchise.
Fame is a
Freaking
fickle
franchise.
friend, Harry.
Let's match the power of Lord Voldemort, heir of Salazar Slytherin, against the famous Harry Potter.
Hey, Vsauce, Michael here.
No, not that. The actual basilisk. A creature that was done mostly with practical effects, with really only using CG when it's chasing after Harry. But otherwise, the head and some of the body is animatronic. But before it has a chance to finish him off, Fox comes back to claw its eyes so its death stare doesn't work anymore. But like a traditional snake, it can sense where Harry's at by following the vibrations based on his footsteps. He gets cornered, but luckily there's a convenient rock at his disposal to lure it away. I'm still on the fence on if a snake can slither backwards. I heard that it's not impossible, but also very difficult for them to do. So I guess we can say this is a rare instance where they can. Either way, seems like it's left the chat and Harry can make his way back to the starting point.
Yes, Potter. The process is nearly complete. In a few minutes, Ginny Weasley will be dead, and I will cease to be a memory. Lord Voldemort will return. Very much alive.
Ginny.
The sorting hat becomes a sorting hat as Harry gets equipped with 10 extra points in his attack damage. Running on over to the Basilisk's home and climbing to the top, we then get what I guess you could consider a duel, but not in the way that was presented earlier in the movie. And I like this whole chamber scene a lot, because now we have actual 12-year-old Daniel Radcliffe fighting a real practical basilisk with a sword. But with no more monsters on the field or back row setup, the basilisk is wide open for a direct attack on its life points.
Snake, respond! Snake? Snake!
But before it officially kicks the cauldron, one of its fangs gets lodged into Harry's arm. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a camera crew to ask if he's okay or needs medical attention, so he's just gonna have to listen to a riddle monologue about how Harry's gonna die to the venom soon. Of course, the Slytherin folk we've seen thus far don't seem super bright, and it must have still been the case 50 years ago because he helps Harry defeat himself.
Funny, the damage a silly little book can do. What do you do? Stop! No!
Way to go, dork! All you had to do was keep quiet for a couple minutes and you could have been like, ladies and gentlemen, I got him. Tom blows up into glitter, Ginny's back to normal, Fox shows up to use his foreshadowed healing tears to cure the basilisk damage. It's strong enough to fly Harry, Ginny, Ron, and Lockhart out of the chamber, and we cut to Dumbledore's office where Harry and Ron are in a similar position to when they first arrived at Hogwarts. They broke some heavy school rules. But because Ron indirectly defeated their second bad defense against the dark arts teacher and Harry killed the basilisk as well as the memory of Tom Riddle, they're let off the hook this time. And while the main plot's mystery questions were solved, there is still one more thing we've yet to find out. And it's answered when a certain slender man pays them a visit.
Dobby, the family who serviced the Malfoys.
Lucius ain't very happy that Dobby's been sneaking out to vaguely inform Harry on what's going on, but when they leave, Harry wants to return a gift to him. And for basically the last coincidence of the movie, Harry hands the diary to Lucius, who then hands it to Dobby, which contains a second gift. A sock. And even though the sock technically belongs to Harry, because Lucius handed Dobby the diary which contained an article of clothing in it, that counts as Dobby's master presenting him with clothes. Which means...
Dobby is free.
And I use the word coincidence because Harry would have had to known right off the bat that Lucius was going to hand the diary immediately to Dobby, rather than holding on to it himself for however long he decides to.
Lost me, my servant! You shall not harm Harry Potter!
Wonder what he was about to cast there. Guess we'll never find out.
Just promise me something.
Anything, sir.
Never try to save my life again.
Cutting to the Great Hall for one last scene, everyone affected by the attacks are cured, Hagrid returns from Azkaban, and while there's no House Cup ceremony shown in these films anymore, I think it's a safe assumption that Gryffindor automatically wins this one too. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets has so much to offer. The tone is slightly darker compared to the previous film, the action is a lot better, and the main trio are kinda maturing a little. In Sorcerer's Stone, Harry didn't really know what was going on and plans would seem to come to him like on the spot with not much time to think about them. Meanwhile, in this film, him being informed that there is danger afoot before he even gets to Hogwarts gives him a better chance to come up with plans. Oh, and need I even comment on Radcliffe's voice change from the first one to the second?
Listen, last night, I'm guessing Snape let the troll in as a diversion.
Ron, I should tell you, most muggles aren't accustomed to seeing a flying car.
And actually quite a few of the young actors in this had a pretty drastic voice change in between films.
And there's also spinach, liver, and tripe.
Head into the dark forest.
red hair, and a hand-me-down robe? You must be a Weasley.
Famous Harry Potter. Can't even go to a bookshop without making the front page.
I'm half and half. My dad's a muggle. Mum's a witch.
Cornish pixies.
Ron has a bit of a different personality this time around. In the last film, other than making friends with Harry right away, he was quite a jerk to Hermione from the get-go. This time around, he does no form of arguing with her, and he willingly tries to defend her when Malfoy drops the dreaded M-word. I know technically in Sorcerer's Stone, Ron helped with the troll by using Wingardium Leviosa on its club, which, in a matter of speaking, protected Hermione, but let's be honest, Harry was the first one to try to take action, it just didn't work well in his favor. So really, it was kind of out of obligation for Ron to do it, since he was the only one with a functional wand at the time. I'd say the only criticism I have with him here is he's a little too whiny.
They were starving him, Mum.
Say it.
I'm doomed.
Can we panic now?
Previously, Hermione could be seen as a pretentious know-it-all who's a little too arrogant for her own good, but now she has less attitude when she comes up with plans and talks to Harry and Ron. I'm putting Dobby in the neutral pile because of a combination of he didn't really have to try to protect Harry. I don't know, there just really wasn't anything that explained why he thought he had to. And ironically, Dobby trying to help Harry puts him in more danger than if he just went about his business. But at the same time, you can't help but feel sorry for him when it's revealed who his master is and then seeing him get physically abused. Now Lucius, on the other hand, I actually like. Jason Isaacs gives him this awesomely sinister voice that really works. Yeah, obviously you know he's going to be a villain right off the spot, but I've said before that just because somebody obviously looks like a villain does not necessarily make them a bad character. And it's kind of funny how Isaacs based his performance on watching The Sorcerer's Stone and watching Tom Felton act as Draco Malfoy, and then basically trying to imagine how his father would act.
I watched the first film to see who my son was and maybe decide how to play his dad. And he's such an unpleasant little slimeball. I decided I should win him some sympathy. So you see me bully him mercilessly.
Now, Draco, play nicely.
I don't think you can even talk about this film without regarding it being Richard Harris's last performance before he passed away. And don't take this the wrong way with what I'm about to say, but oh my god, the timing of him passing and the movie's release was insane. He passed away just 2 weeks before it went to theaters. It sucks that he couldn't see his last performance on the big screen, but at least to me, he was the perfect choice to have as Dumbledore to get these movies rolling. I enjoyed the story of the Chamber more than the Stone, if only because the Chamber is something that has been attached to the school since almost the start of its existence, whereas the Stone just kind of felt like an item that happened to stumble onto the grounds by accident. And I don't think I need to praise the Basilisk more than I already have. But one new thing I'll say here that I didn't before is I like the build-up and suspense it had throughout the film. Yeah, I kind of made fun of the voice, but truthfully, I find it a little bone-chilling. Like, if I'm just minding my own business and suddenly I'm starting to hear a hissing voice talk about killing, you'd bet I'd be terrified. Now, I do think it would have been cool if we saw a visual teaser of it after it, like, attacked Justin or Hermione. I kind of wanted to see how it could attack someone, then escape without anyone else noticing. Just a little something to build up extra hype for when Tom releases it later. But hey, I'm still satisfied with what we got. So, all the pros from the previous film remains the same, with the inclusion of new stuff here, such as the Spider Chase, Chamber, and Basilisk. But something from the previous cons list that I'm going to shift over to the pros in this review is the pacing. With having a mystery that also includes multiple suspects, you can't really devote too much film time to messing around with filler. The only thing I think wasn't necessary, and was something I didn't bother covering until now, is the flute powder, which teleports you from one fireplace to another, so as long as you say the name of your destination clearly, and Nocturne Alley, a different area next to Diagon Alley that Harry accidentally teleported to. To my knowledge, none of the characters ever used the flute powder specifically for the rest of the series, so there's really no point in introducing it. In Nocturne Alley, it's sort of a slummy area, and while they do come back to this location sometimes, it's never really a heavily focused spot. In a deleted scene, this was supposed to be where we see Draco and Lucius for the first time in the film. But being that it wasn't in the final cut, we're here for a couple minutes, then Hagrid appears and helps Harry get to Diagon Alley. And actually, while we're on the topic of deleted scenes, there is one where we actually do get an introduction to Justin. But even his introduction isn't that long, and all he does is foreshadow what's about to happen in like the next scene.
Know who you are. We all do, even us Muggle-borns.
But yeah, other than that, getting to Hogwarts takes a little less time to get to. The voice shows up at a good time after getting reunited with all the other side characters, and so on and so forth. I'd say maybe the spider chase and chamber scenes are a little too close to each other, but at the same time, we got some downtime when it comes to Harry and Ron trying to solve the mystery when they got that parchment from Hermione's hand. So, I don't think it's a big deal. However, whereas in Sorcerer's Stone, I put too much exposition in the cons, here, I'm going to be replacing that with too many coincidences. I pointed out most of them already. Plans seem to be thought up better to me, but I felt like there were just too many dumb luck moments. And there are just many unfortunate moments that happen all because somebody stood in the wrong spot. Technically staying on the cons list from the last review is the defense against the Dark Arts teacher. Last time we had Quirrell, who hardly had lines in the few scenes he was in up until the last scene, but became slightly memorable for being a servant to Voldemort. But his reveal to being a villain wasn't very rewarding. Now we have Lockhart. He has many scenes, stands out more, and has more than one memorable scene. But his turn on being evil felt pretty weak. He's not even a servant to Voldemort, and if he is, it's not explained very well except for possibly a certain line just before he casts his memory charm.
The world will know our story. How I was too late to save the girl.
But even that's too vague, because Lockhart never talks about Voldemort in the movie. At all, in fact. And Tom never talks about Lockhart being involved with his plan. So at that, he's just a throwaway character. He's basically comic relief, turns evil for 20 seconds, and then when the memory charm backfires onto him and he loses his memory, he's back to being the comic relief again. But I think the biggest problem about Chamber of Secrets is how repetitive it can feel compared to the first. Tell me if any of these scenarios sound familiar. Do we start with Harry at the Dursleys and someone has to rescue him? Do we get people dropping their jaws when they see Harry for the first time? Do we have a Gryffindor versus Slytherin Quidditch match where Harry's almost killed but manages to get the snitch? Do we have a class lesson taught followed soon after by a scene that was being foreshadowed? How about a scene where Harry and company go to Hagrid's at night, have some reason to go in the dark forest, and they come across something dangerous? But hey! I bet there isn't a scene where Harry meets a hardly seen character in a dungeon-like area with a Voldemort reveal that plays very similar sounding music.
Harry Potter.
In one perspective, I can say these nearly repeated scenes are improvements on how they were done in the last film, but in the other perspective, it doesn't leave much room for creativity, and that's just coming from a critical point of view. From a casual point of view, however, I do see those as improvements over the last film, and I enjoy this movie a lot because of it. In fact, I plan on doing the other films in the series as time goes on, and I think it would be kind of fun to rank each one after their respective review. So for this one, and you probably already saw it coming, I like it more than Sorcerer's Stone. But as for the rating, it's gonna remain the same at a 9 out of 10.
It's flesh-eating slug repellent. For them petrified. People down at the hospital, according to Professor Sprout, we'll be able to chop them up and stew them.
Okay, so how do they taste?